Arc System Works and Cygames have released Granblue Fantasy Versus, a new fighting game. It's pretty approachable, making it an excellent competitive game for newcomers. Don't mistake its approachability for lack of substance, though. Within its accessible shell, there is a lot to learn, and this video will show you some of the worst beginner mistakes you should avoid in Granblue Fantasy. Hello, this is Clash of Games, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe and switch on notifications so you don't miss a single upload. Granblue Fantasy Versus GBVS is based on the hugely famous Japanese mobile web browser role-playing game Granblue Fantasy (GBF), which has over 25 million players in its 6 years of existence. It's a game that has gained a sizable English-speaking audience thanks to the maker's simultaneous English localization while not being available outside of Japan in the iOS and Android app stores. GBF follows the player's character, the captain of an airship in a universe of floating islands, and is either Gran or Jita depending on gender. Gran, Jita, wishes to visit their father on the mythical last island in the sky. Along the way, you'll meet a vast group of adventurers who will help you combat wicked empires, battle fallen angels bent on destroying the planet, and assist the cast of Love Live with putting on a concert. It's not required to know anything about the original game's story, because the game's RPG mode does a wonderful job of explaining everything you need to know. And if you're going to play the multiplayer competitive modes, you won't be interested in the plot anyway. Here are some of the most common beginner mistakes in Granblue Fantasy that you should avoid. Although tutorials can be tedious at times, they are an essential part of the Granblue Fantasy experience. Tutorials, in our opinion, are an excellent way to understand the rules of any combat game. Granblue Fantasy Versus, while familiar to most fighting game players, has its own set of rules and inputs that you should be aware of before delving into the nitty-gritty of competitive play. To access the Granblue Fantasy Versus tutorial, go to the main menu and select Mission Training. There are 5 tabs to choose from there. Next, go to Basic Mission and go through the objectives there. The Granblue Fantasy Versus tutorial isn't ideal, but it's the best way to get started if you're new to the fighting game genre. These courses will teach you all you need to know, from the fundamentals of how to perform simple combinations to more advanced situational methods. Ways to deal with character-specific approaches are also presented. Versus doesn't have an extensive roster, but each character is distinct enough that it's critical to understand their individual abilities and how to negate them. When all you want to do is punch people in the face, sitting down to study a game may seem like a chore, but the foundation the tutorial gives is vital to future success and enjoyment. Aside from the tedious tutorials, the character's skill practice and combo practice are frequently overlooked. You should avoid missing the character's skill and combo practice because it will benefit you more than you imagined. Return to the Mission Training menu once you've decided on the main character. The tabs Skill Practice and Combo Practice are located above. Each one has lessons for specific characters, so you'll need to find yours and go through the instructions. The character's special moves will be taught to you through Skill Practice. It's pretty straightforward, and it's something you might accomplish in free training. You do, however, have the joy of earning a grade for your work. It's merely a convenient way to learn the character's unique moves without going through a command list. Combo practice is more effective for fully understanding how your character's moveset flows. It's a small collection of combos for each character, but it might inspire some new ones. These could also be used as a bread and butter combination. Regardless, combo practice aids in the proper understanding of your character. We believe that going into free training is an excellent next step from here. Put what you've learned into practice and become more consistent, or come up with some of your own combinations. You should now be able to identify your main character after trying out the skill and combination practice of the characters. Finding a character that you are comfortable with is something you should do in any fighting game. This is also known as your primary. While it may seem frightening at first, each character has their own distinct style with which you may bond with after you understand their mechanics. Fortunately, Granblue Fantasy Versus only has 11 characters for you to check out. DLC characters will be added, beginning with the Chaos Bringer Beelzebub and Narmaya. The following is a list of the starting lineup. Gran, Catalina, Charlotta, Lancelot, Percival, Fairy, Loane, Ladiva, Matera, Zeta, Vasaraga. From Vasaraga's sluggish and intense assaults to Lancelot's agile moves, each of these heroes has its own distinct playstyle. If you want to learn more about them, leave a comment below and we'll make a separate video for you. But if you're looking for a friendlier beginner character, Gran or Catalina are excellent alternatives. These two are essentially the Ryu and Ken for Granblue Fantasy Versus. They have an easy-to-learn moveset that is effective in a competitive context. Hey there, bud! Before we go ahead and continue, kindly smash that thumbs up button and feel free to share your thoughts in the comments down below. After completing the tutorials as well as the skill practice and combo practice of the characters, do not go online yet. The worst thing you can do when learning Granblue Fantasy Versus is willingly throw yourself into the meat grinder of online gaming. While you'll have to accept defeat regularly, it shouldn't be one of your first encounters with the game. Instead, it's time to put your moves to the test after you've practiced them. While you may accomplish this in various modes, Arcade Mode and Versus Mode are the best of the bunch. They're nothing extraordinary, but they give you a chance to put everything you've learned to the test in a controlled atmosphere. The opportunity to change the difficulty level after each battle is one of our favorite features of Arcade Mode. You can, for example, begin with an average difficulty setting. Then, 3 alternatives will show after you finish the contest. Each option will display the next opponent and the difficulty level at which they will be set. The standard difficulty and a step above and below the selected difficulty would be the 3 alternatives in this situation. The Matchups tab in Mission Training is another option that can help you in more particular situations. A set of tasks will be shown to you, similar to Combo Practice, and you will be tasked with punishing, defending, or moving past particular character movements. This is useful if you're having problems dealing with a particular character's attacks. Don't be frightened to lose after all of that. It's now time to get online and play with real folks. Now that you know what to expect from a match, it's time to test your skills against real people online. Fighting a CPU will only get you so far, especially as CPU fights in Granblue Fantasy Versus are pretty straightforward, even on the hardest difficulty setting. This is where your knowledge and abilities will be put to the ultimate test. You will almost certainly still have to learn a lot. I know I do. If there's one bit of advice we can give you, it's to be fearless when it comes to losing. Yes, it is aggravating. You've done all you can to prepare, and getting squashed is a terrible feeling. However, take it all in and learn from your blunders. What were your most critical blunders? What were the traps you fell into? Are you putting up the same amount of effort every time? You can ask yourself any of these questions. Then you can watch replays to figure out what went wrong. That's fantastic if you come out blazing in Granblue Fantasy Versus and win with ease. So continue to do what you're doing. However, if you manage to pick up a few victories here and there, keep practicing and playing against real players. After all, if you don't play against anyone, you'll never learn. Last but not least, remember to have fun. The only way you'll improve at fighting games is if you like yourself. This may demand a change in personality or attitude. Whatever you think of your opponent's performance, losing is always your responsibility. It is totally up to you to provide the impetus for progress. Examine the replays of your games to see where you went wrong. What's the state of your anti-airs? Are you aiming for the best possible combinations? Do you require additional practice playing against the character who defeated you? Unlike, say, League of Legends or Counter-Strike, you are solely responsible for every defeat you suffer. Fighting games can be a tiresome slog of study and repetition at their worst, but at their finest, they're amazing. Remember that even within the confines of a silly video game, personal growth is a beautiful thing. In general, we found that failing at GBVS is more enjoyable than succeeding at it, especially when playing online. At least at our low to moderate level of play, the matchmaker has done a fantastic job of pitting us against similar players, making matches feel competitive rather than one-sided. Several elements in GBVS will appeal to players and fans of the mobile RPG, but it appears that a tremendous effort has been made to make the game approachable to novices, to the series, and fighting games in general. It could be just what you need to get over that stumbling block. And that's it for today's video. If you found it helpful, please hit the thumbs up button and do not forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications to be notified of every upload. This is Clash of Games, and we will see you in our next video.